Hello, everybody, and welcome to OutRaised Voices. I'm your host, Sharon Lee Williams, of course. If you're new here, I want to thank you for showing up. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all of you who have been here before, who are new, who are checking us out. Thank you so much for your support. I am going to jump into what we are talking about today with our CEO. Now, before I do that, I'm giving you a reminder what CEO stands for, and that is conversation, education, and outreach. So that's why my guests are called CEOs, because they bring that to this show. Today's CEO is Dr. Loren Michaels-Harris. Now, we're going to link his extensive resume at the end of the show. He's also the host of his own TV show on E360 called Bathrobe Moments. And he has his own network, Trajectory TV. He's a busy guy. He talks. He's a keynote speaker, a musician. He's done a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm really grateful that he is able to be with us here today. And we're going to speak with Dr. Loren today about his road from his beginnings in foster care and I guess how he found his North Star. So here's Dr. Loren.
Wow. I forgot I was here. I thought I was watching TV. I'm not kidding. I was like, okay, come on, let's go. I'm so excited. Sharon Lee, so nice to meet you. And great job on all the work you've done on E360 and beyond. I'm so happy to be here. And thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for showing up. I know I meant it. You are a busy guy, because I went to your obviously your website and did a little research, and you've been doing this a while and keynote speaking. And one thing that was pretty cool when I spoke to you earlier is that you are a musician, a singer, like moi, and do voiceovers like moi.
Yes.
I spent many decades doing that. So
yeah,
that was pretty cool.
Fun?
Yeah, and really good. It's a good living. I didn't say that, folks. I didn't say that, but I meant it.
Those residual checks. Yes.
The residuals are really good. So, but today we're on this, the topic of foster care and understanding that whole journey for you. Now, let's start with this. I read that you've been in 22 foster homes. Let's just start there. And I guess I wanted to know how, I don't know where that comes in for you, what the memory is, where's the start? Where's the beginning with that?
The same place it is for everyone's origin story, it doesn't really matter what your belief system is. If you're a non-believer, an atheist, or an agnostic, it's once upon a time. If you're a believer of any type, it's in the beginning. So my in the beginning began on the 4th of July, 1962, when I was born to my mom, Lucille. And she was a single mom, a divorced mom, with 4 other kids. I was the 5th. And she had left our dad. We all had the same dad. She had left our dad in Arkansas, migrated to Michigan, where there was a lot of industry work, factory work, with 4 other women who all packed up, and I think they had a total of 2 cars that they packed everybody in, and they moved. And these women, apparently, when I found my mom, first thing she did was she took me and introduced me to a woman named B, who was the one who convinced her to move and had told her that she would find me one day. Now I'm kind of getting ahead, but anyway, I met B, and these women lived 1 block away from each other. So they were in a square, like 1 block. They could walk to each other's houses. And
I can see it.
My mom, she didn't have much education. I think 6th, 7th grade was the extent. And she when she went to the hospital to deliver me the first time, it was false labor, and they sent her home. But she met my second mom, Ada, who was the nurse in the maternity ward, 1962. And they became friends, or at least familiar acquaintances, I'd say, and they kind of shared each other's stories. And my adoptive mom, Ada, which the second mom, had confided that she had lost a child, or there was a child. She didn't say lost, but I think she might have said lost, but he wasn't. We found out later he was alive, but she had given him up. Bob found that out years later. But anyway, my birth mom, she said that she goes to Loren, when I re-met her, because I met my mom, of course, when I was born. But then she entrusted me to this woman temporarily. She thought it would be about a month. She said, because I didn't want to live in the projects. I didn't want to go on welfare. And I found her when I was 32 years old, because she gave me to this woman, and then the woman never gave me back. She moved and kept me. Right. Wow. So I was in that house, and I was known as Larry Dixon, Dixon. I was Larry Dixon all the way from the time I was born until I was 10, almost 11. And she had a stroke and died just like that, out of the blue. And it was not even a week after her funeral. We still had a house full of family, because they didn't know who was going to take me, because I was the only kid still at home. All my other siblings were out in college or married. And so
at home, are we talking about now Lucille, your mom?
No,
has passed?
I didn't meet Lucille until I was 32.
Okay, so B has passed.
Yeah, no, Ada. Ada is mom number 2. Yeah, B was Lucille's best friend. So,
okay. Gotcha.
Okay, so sorry about getting that confused. But yeah, so the 2 primary mothers, 1 and 2, Ada was my adoptive, and Lucille was my birth. So she got a letter, apparently years later. I did see the letter that said, I didn't know how to tell you this, but your baby died, and I didn't and I just disappeared because I didn't want you to hate me, And so my mom, that very first day, we hadn't even talked about the letter yet, but we talked about me being the rumor that I was dead. And she goes, because the first thing she said was, come on in. She goes, oh, I knew you'd find me. I just knew you'd find me. I said, well, how? How could you have known that? We're still standing. We haven't sat down or anything. And she's standing there, and I'm shutting the door. It was winter, so I was taking my stuff off. And I said, how did you know I'd come if you thought I was dead? Because we talked on the phone a little before I actually met her. And she goes, son, I'd never been called. She says, son, and then her hand, I'll never forget. She put her hand on her stomach like young pregnant women do when they're carrying, when they're expecting. And she says, son, you and I were once one person. God had taken you from me. I would have been the first person he would have notified. I never got so I knew you were out somewhere. And that's actually a line that the reason I love talking about that particular statement from her was in the Goalcast video, shameless plug. In the Goalcast video, they did a beautiful job of adding the imagery, the texture to the story. And they show an African-American woman fully nine months pregnant, laying flat, completely naked on a table. And when I say that line about we were once one person, that was when I saw that video. It was the first time I had ever imagined myself inside my mom's stomach. You see, I've never seen a baby picture. I was in hiding, so there were no pictures of me in the house. I still have siblings in my adoptive family that will not let me have my picture. If you were to put baby pictures, the youngest picture I've seen of me was 6. Anything under that, you lay them out on the table with a bunch of other little African-American boys, I would not know who was who. And I have a sister who lives 10 miles from me and will not let me have, how you used to take school pictures and they had the sheets of pictures. You cut them out with wallet size and then the bigger ones that the whole class was in one. They won't let me have any of them. My nieces have gone into wherever they're kept at their mom's house and taking take photos of some of the pictures because they hear her coming and then they run up.
Well, why?
Because
Is there a why?
Because the commitment of they knew I was not legally there. And so she kept the pictures. I don't know, evidence. I don't have no idea, but I don't know why she wouldn't. And I have another sister in California.
Biological sister? Are we talking?
No, they're from the adopted family. They have all of the pictures between the two of them, and neither one of them come off of. They're bound by the promise they made to our mother. And I'm like, but she's been dead longer than she was alive. She's been dead 55 years. She was only 50 when she died.
Oh, my. So there's something else behind that. There's something else behind. And I love that, I hear that with foster kids. You're still, that's your mother. It's your mother, our mother, mother A, mother B, whatever. It's still your mother.
Yeah.
And you have to question what the storyline is with the other siblings, or what the storyline is. So would you say you're still friends with them? You're still on speaking terms with them, or?
Well, it's very interesting because in the adopted family, for years when I used to ask questions secretly to my siblings about anything, because I never really knew, but even after our mom died and we would write and stuff when I was in the system, we started moving back towards each other because, I was 17 when I aged out of foster care. I didn't find my birth mother until 32. But in those years in between, once I hit 18, I went into the military. So I started asking questions because I wanted to find them, because I was like, what if there's some like diabetes or something in our bloodline and I can do something about it early if I know.
I know that one.
And I really was more interested in that because they asked me all those kinds of questions when I enlisted in the Air Force. And I was like, oh, that's a good question. I have no way of knowing. So I would ask my siblings, you guys know anything about my real mama? Why do you want to know about her? She was a drug addict and a prostitute. One sister actually told me, don't ask me about those people again. They were horrible. We literally rescued you from the garbage. That's what she said. Like, we took you out of a trash can. I knew that wasn't true because my mom would have never. No. How would I end up? But anyway, that's how badly they did not want me to look, because then I would have found out the real story, which I did. Wait a minute. That's how I found it.
Wow. So let's talk about. Yeah. I want to just touch a little bit on the 22 homes or changing homes and how the mind develops with each home, each new adult. What is there resilience happening? Is there rebellion happening? How are we stepping through this?
That's a great question, Sharon Lee. That's a great question. I don't know how I did it, other than my angels. And there were two that were with me then, and they're in this room with me now. They've been with me since the very beginning of all that foster care stuff. It was different every time. You never knew what you were going to get. To not sound like Forrest Gump, but it was like a box of chocolates. You never knew what you were going to get. There were homes. I even say this in the Goalcast video. I now know, I didn't at the time, but I do now. I realized that all 22 of those women that were mothers of mine in one form or another, some of them shouldn't have ever been called that because they did not qualify to be a mother at all. It was just a paycheck. But nonetheless, I realized each and every one of them played the specific role that they were chosen to play in my journey. And so some of them, we were indentured servants. All we did was work like Hebrew slaves. Some, they had more than one occasion. There may be a son or a daughter. I had a house where it was the daughter. I had a house where it was the mother. And I had lots of houses where it was the father who molested us. And they could keep it in the house because they didn't want somebody in the family to get caught or told on. They all knew it was a thing. That was. Are you getting social workers visiting you at this time? But there's so many homes. Not enough social workers, but
how is that being
I was
handled?
blessed. Yeah, I was blessed to have for the first 3 years the same worker. And after finding my mom, Ann, when I first started working with her, I was one of her first. She'd been a social worker for 3 weeks, right out of college. And all those years later, after I found my mom and I found her 6 months after, she had just retired for 3 months before she had retired. And so I owe my life to her, Ann, and I couldn't. That's why I had to find her right after my mother. Ann was so good. I'll never forget the very first home when she dropped me off. Because she wasn't the one who snatched me from the family. That was a woman from church who was a social worker that was a friend of my deceased mother's. And she was the only person at church that my mom had told the secret to. When she died, Rima, that was her name, felt compelled because she was duty bound to report it. And she did, and they came and got me. They sent her to come and get me. And so Ann, I'll never forget so it was really that Ann became my worker after Rima dropped me off. So she came to meet me and she said, walk me to my car. Be a gentleman, won't you? And walk me to my car, Larry. And I said, okay, because I liked her instantly. And she got to her car, never forget, and they had those white stones in their yard, that gravel, that white decorative gravel. They're sharp, pointy. And she had a skirt on and hose. This was 1970 something. He had stockings on. And she got down on one knee to my level, and she looked me in the eye. She says, listen to me. I'm new at this, but I'm not new to life. I've been through some things myself. If I ever come to visit you and something is not right, if it feels wrong, smells wrong, then it is wrong. I want you to take my hand and walk me to the car. I'm going to always ask you to be a man and walk me to my car. Be a gentleman. If something is wrong, don't look at me. Don't move your mouth because they most likely will be watching. Just squeeze my hand 2 times. Not once, not 3, 2. Make sure you mean it. Don't cry wolf. But if you squeeze my hand 2 times, I give you my word, Larry. I will come back before the sun goes down to get you. She did that physically 3 times in the 3 years that I was with her. But she did it spiritually hundreds of times after that.
As you were walking through those homes. Yeah. So she was just amazing. Just amazing. But I was able to handle it because God kind of put it on my spirit when I first entered the system to treat it like the books you read. And I was an avid reader. I read so many books and I beat everybody in all the competitions at school for book reports and stuff. So much so they sent the principal to our house to see if I was faking it. And my mom said, you really think he would? She came and knocked on my door and opened it. And there I was under the covers with a flashlight reading. So I was like Hardy Boy Mysteries, Nancy Drew, all that kind of stuff. And so God said, treat this journey, treat your world like an adventure. Study people and keep your eyes open. It's an adventure. You'll be glad you did one day. And that's what I did. I remember how I met my angel. You want to hear that real quick? Well, I do. I want to know where. So that's the part I was going to ask. When does the faith? Because we may know these things, but when you're going through this trauma, faith might not be in your orbit at that time. So when do you and faith meet up?
Great question.
Meet up and go.
And it's the same answer. So you're so good. You're so good. That's the same answer. That's exactly when. Because I was angry. I had been in parochial school because they hid me in private school. And the family that raised me up to that point, they were Seventh-day Adventists. I don't know if you know anything about Seventh-day Adventists, but people put it there with Jehovah's Witness, LDS, almost cult-like in a lot of ways. A lot of fire and brimstone and this and the other. You don't do this and you don't do that. So I'd been in parochial school. And so, of course, and back then, I don't know if they do now or not. That wasn't a criteria, like placing you with your own people kind of thing. My first foster home were white people. And they threw a big old shaking big pork chop in front of me. I was like, I can't eat that. I'll burn in hell. And they were like, well, you'll either die of starvation or burn in hell. Your choice. And they put that thing in front of me probably 3-4 days in a row until I had to eat it. So there's all this guilt and shame and I should kill myself and run away or this, that, and the other. And it was very first night in the very first foster home. 3 little boys. See, I reach for this when I say their names because I used to have a necklace when I first started speaking on stages that had 3 stones repeated 3 times. And I had it made to represent those 3 boys. None of them, after I met Ann, I went looking for them. And all of them perished inside the system. None lived beyond 14. 2 of us were 10. 1 was 8 and 1 was 4. And the 4-year-old was the spokesman out of everybody because I was in the room. They were out playing that first day when I got there that afternoon. And I went to the room, put myself away and was just crying and laid on my bunk because there was a mattress missing on the bunk bed above me. I took the bottom bunk and the other, I could see where kids had stuff on their bunks. There were 3 sets of bunk beds in there, 6 beds. But there was a mattress from my bed against the wall over there. And so I just laid there and then they locked them in the room at 8 p.m. I didn't want to eat or anything. I stayed away from everybody first night. And they were standing. I could hear them behind me. And then I heard, hey, new kid, turn over. We need to talk to you. I was like, leave me alone, right? Get away from me. And then they said, listen, you don't have to like us, but you need to listen to us. So I turned over and I was really surprised. It was Andrew. He was the 4-year-old. He was supposed to look a little old seer or something. I was like, spirit. Yeah, deep voice. And he looked old. You ever seen those kids' music? He's an old soul. But you know what it was about him? He was the only one out of the 4 of us that had never been in a normal home. He was born in prison and handed straight to the foster system. He had never known anything but institutionalism. Wow. And so he knew something. He said, listen, there's a man in this house. You see that mattress over there? I was like, yeah. Because there's a hole behind that mattress. And that hole leads to the room next door. There's a hole in a closet there. And the door to that closet's locked. But there's a hole that comes through. And that bedroom is locked. So there's 2 locks. But the same man has both keys. Because you're new, chances are he's coming for you tonight. If not tonight, for sure tomorrow. And I don't know what they're talking about. I'm like, come to me for what? They're like, you'll see. Just don't cry and don't pretend like you're sleeping. It'll only make him mad. But little Andrew actually said, piss him off because he cussed like a sailor. He did. Yeah. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, sure.
And I didn't know what was happening, but I went to sleep and keeping my eye on that wall. And I had my mom's her hand towel. It was the last. I ran back in the house before they took me, and something said, grab it. I grabbed it because it smelled like her triple lanolin lotion, which to me was the most beautiful smell in the world. And I was just going, because it was a connection. And I was watching that. I was breathing in that smell. And I saw those fingers come around that mattress to start scooting it. That's all I remember. That was when my angels took me. And I'm telling you, I don't care if anybody ever believes me. I can see it like it was 2 minutes ago. And it was like I could just feel them around me. And then it was like, boom. I was like, why does it feel like we landed? Where are we? And they said, good question. Where indeed? Never forget it. They said, this is a place. It is called faith. Faith is not a thing. It is a place. Yes. That's when they told me, don't spend your journey focusing on gathering and accumulating things. Yes. Focus and accumulate things you can feel. All of them are places. Joy, comfort, empathy, courage, faith. All places. Live by that day, Sharon Lee. Day.
Now that's a powerful story, and definitely I believe you about the angels, and probably protected you from feeling anything, all the negativity activity that was happening at that moment,
Yeah.
that you'd put something else beautiful in your mind because they were there for you.
And they told me, actually,
Yeah.
faith will keep your world from fracturing. Those were the exact words. Faith will keep your world from fracturing. Now I know that's what grandmama used to refer to as, so sister so-and-so had a nervous breakdown. That kind of thing.
Oh, so now you understand you're in faith.
Yes.
I'm going to skip a little because
Okay.
I wrote a chapter in a book called, which is here, The Ripple Effect of Impact. And the chapter was called Scar Tissue. You know why I'm saying this, because I went to your site,
Well, I have two speaking topics on ripple effect and living beyond our scars.
I saw that yesterday. And so, but what I wanted to ask you was about what are the scars, or is there a scar that you have left to kind of polish, or if you want to share it, you don't have to.
I do. Oh my God, yes. Yes. Love it. Absolutely love this question. The scars on the outside of my body, and that's what I love about that topic. Every person in the audience always raises their hand when I say, raise your hand if you have at least one scar on your body. It unites all of us, no matter if it's 30 or 3,000. And then I always ask, and how many of you, when you pictured that scar that I just asked you if you had, you remembered the story that goes with it? Every hand goes up.
Yeah.
And so, like, the scar that it started with me was this one on my finger, because I was 9 years old, and it happened within 6 months of everything blowing up in my world. Larry. This reminds me that Larry got me here. That Larry he literally took scars for me to manifest for the me of today and beyond. And it wasn't until I had recorded my masterclass, I heard God say, watch it alone the first time. And I was like, and I didn't know why, but I did. And at certain junctures, my breath would, because I saw the full, it was like, this is your life all at once. And at the end of watching it, I promise you, I found myself sitting on that bunk that I described where this took place that first night, still in my Roy Rogers pajamas. And Larry was sitting right there where I'd left him, broken, waiting on me. And we were sitting there looking at a screen, watching my masterclass. And I'm watching that from where I'm sitting, right? Upstairs in my house. And he looked at me. We turned. He grabbed hands like this, and he leaned in, like just like a kid on a sleepover. And I know it's me, because I'm still him. And he goes, wow, now I get it. I see why we had to go through this. Ooh, go back. Hurry up. Go back and finish what we started. Go back.
Wow.
Thank you for coming back and showing me why it was so worth it. And then I felt what I can only refer to now as what I call a soul hug, because it moved through my spirit past a cellular level.
Yes.
And there was healing beyond comprehension. When you asked me about the scars, see, the scars on my body, they serve two purposes primarily. One, they are proof of immediate healing. Can you imagine if every other puncture or wound we ever accrued, only every other one healed? We wouldn't last very long because of infections and sepsis and such. But there is healing for every scar. There's a story that rides sidecar to remind you of something. They're like mile markers along our journey. Once I was able to embrace the scars on the outside, it was time to get to work on those on the inside. And when I started sharing my truths, started sharing my story, I found authority, I found purpose, I found everything I needed to move and live beyond my scars. the ones that no one ever saw, the ones
Yes.
that were the control lever, the microphone for that horrible liar of a dictator that used to just announce and broadcast one lie after the next to me. You're no good. You're garbage. You're trash. You'll never be anything. And when I moved beyond that scar, every speaker in the house was shut down. Me.
Wow. So in the transformational world, going back to your, talking to your younger self, you did that.
Did.
You
that
did
inner
that.
child healing is real.
That inner is real. It is real. And I'm glad you brought up this next point, because I love this quote you had. Back when all my diamonds were fake, so was I. Once I became real, so too became the diamonds.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's, because they tell us, and maybe that works, fake it till you make it. And until you can do that till you get to the point of awareness or self healing, and you go, oh, we're not in alignment now. I don't need that. This is a prison cell. Fake it till you make it. Then it's show business. We've been in show business.
Yeah.
In life, fake it till you make it. So when you talk about when you first started out, how did you get back to that and say, okay, I don't want to do that anymore. I understand where I'm at. I don't want to BS my people or anything like that.
How did I go from the fake to the real?
Yeah, I guess. Oh, did you say you were DJing at some point, or you were announcing at some point? Maybe I got that wrong, because I thought you had a point where you, just before we got into the diamonds. Maybe I have that wrong.
Well, how it switched over for me, really, to this work that I do today, was because I didn't realize it's what became the Goalcast video. It has 67 million views today. That I was forced. The universe doesn't make mistakes. God, whatever you ascribe to be higher than you, they don't, greater than you. I refer to greater than, because I talk to the angels, Holy Spirit, anything out there. I don't know all your names. You know who you are. You were created by the same hand that created me. That's who I'm talking to. I'll never forget, they pushed me. Because I didn't believe it was ever going to change. I had 7 failed suicide attempts. I just thought the guy was mean and horrible and would dangle carrots and snatch them away at the last second. Psych, right when I'd start trusting. Always close, but no cigar kind of thing. And finally, it put me in a thing. I cleaned my life up because, I was homeless and on the streets. I had a 14-year drug addiction. And with all the stuff that comes with it, every single bit, all of it, jails, prisons, institutions, all of it. And I had cleaned my act up, and I was walking in faith. I remember I was walking, and people I used to smoke crack with would drive by in the middle of a rainstorm or snowstorm and toot the horn and hit their pipe and say, ha, 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 you so dumb. What are you doing out there? I'd be walking to a job interview in the rain or snow. And I would say to God, why would you let them do that to me? I'll never forget. I was walking across the bridge, and I said, why can't I have a car? Why can't I? He said, I'll put you in a seat when it's time for you to get on your feet. You stand up, who you are. I'll put you in a seat. But until then, walk it out and work it out. And I kept moving. And I'll never forget how, I cleaned my act up and I was trying to help somebody else. I was doing the work I do now, but on one person. And I had a 0 tolerance policy. I wouldn't let people that used in my phone, I wouldn't go down streets or play, or none of that. And this person, I heard the person I was helping making a drug deal. I knew the code. He's talking in code. And I said, I told you, I'm out of here. He goes, if you walk out on me, helping me, I was cooking his food, driving to help him get workman's comp, trying to get him on his feet.
You're right.
And he said, I'll ruin you. I'll make up something when you least expect it. I grew up in this town. You didn't. I'm white. You're black. You have a record. They're going to believe me.
Huh.
6 months later, I woke up and I was on the front page of the newspaper, wanted. And I lived 40 feet from that same police station. I was in Herbalife. I worked people out. I transformed people's bodies and worked with them, coached them. 3 of my clients worked at that police station. I was in there every morning working out in their gym. Nobody told me. This guy came in and filed charges. Nobody. So I was going to kill myself that day. I'm driving around getting ready to try to run in front of a semi, and the wheel wouldn't move. I had timed it. Yes. And so I thought my trial was coming. I had a tether on my foot, and someone had told me to try out for this thing where you get to talk about your experiences with motherhood. And I got in. It was on a Saturday night. My trial started that Monday. I had that tether on my foot, but every day that week, I thought this is my last, because 65 years I was looking at. 6 counts. One of them would have taken me away for 20 years. And I tried out. I got in. I was up there. I almost ran off the stage that night 3 times. That's the night that turned into the Goalcast video that broke my career. I got up there and I told the story because I thought I would never have another chance. Monday, Tuesday, they're going to find me guilty. I'll be gone and I'll never get out. I was already 50 years old. Didn't happen. Wow. I didn't have any people of color on my jury. No, none of the alternates were of color. I had to hang them high judge. Nobody liked. People showed up for me. Sat in there as court watchers. That program is still in place today. So that young African-American men and women don't get railroaded into taking pleas because they're afraid. And so I got exonerated. When I went outside to take pictures and leave, my very first speaking opportunity, my phone went. Rest.
I hear your story, and I only hear part of myself in that story, but the lack of permanency that you had, do you find that you require more stability now? Do you have, or did you have the mindset of impermanence and nothing lasts forever? I know you touched a bit on that. Nothing lasts. How does it go in relationships? Well, yeah, because I know I went through a bit of that. You go through, well, if they leave, yeah, I expect them, if my own mother can leave, that was my attitude. If my own mother didn't want me, then who else will?
Right.
So that is where I went. But changing that mindset and realizing that your past does not, doesn't define you, but it's not a prison cell. It's not a life sentence. Don't make it a life sentence. And you seem to have done so much with that. Now, I know we've talked a lot, and I could go on a lot with you because I want to know when is enough, but I think you touched on that. What's a question you would have liked me to ask you that I haven't asked, or what you would like to talk about that I haven't? I've closed the binder. So, what's a question that you would?
Never been asked that one. You are good. Wow. Okay, I'm going to use that one. I'm just telling you now, I'm going to use that one. I think the question so I'm trying to think of one that's been rarely asked or not at all. I think is important to the overall work. And when I say the work, I just want to that out, make sure it's crystal clear. I'm not talking about what I do to get paid. That's what I get paid for. I'm talking about what I believe the question would be, how did you forgive?
Yes.
And how did you get past it? Stay past it. And I'll tell you the answer to that. I remember the day I heard it, and he said, it's going to be a cuss word. It's a minor one. But I remember I heard it because God talks to me just like my homeboy would.
Yeah.
And he said,
too.
So, okay, so you know what I'm talking about, right? And I was like, he says, can I let you in on something? I said, yeah. He goes, listen, everything I send you through is for a reason. I don't make mistakes. That's just my way of keeping your shit interesting. That's what he told me. And here, this is the biggest thing I can leave you to any person under the sound of my voice who has experienced any form at all. Because trauma does not come in pints, quarts, or gallons. So mine isn't worse than anyone else's and vice versa. But know this, the moment that trauma touches any human being, that very first time, that is the very moment that what is greater than you has literally marked you for great. That's what it means. And what about all those other times then, Loren? That's when he nudged you gently with his elbow saying, don't forget, marked you for greatness. And that really helps because, and when I combine that to the message, I don't make mistakes, it's just I'm keeping everything interesting for you. Remember the adventure? That's powerful. Because now I don't take things personally. Now it's not just a cliche when I hear it's not working against you. It's working for you. When you believe that, you must believe your faith cannot be a part-time shared custody agreement. It must be all the time. You must be willing.
It is tested.
Yes. And I'll say this. Last thing. Whatever you do, I promise you this works. This is a hack. Whatever you find in front of you, stand and look at it. Face it. I hold this. This is a sponsor, right? I'm holding her little butters. But I look at it like an exam and go, Why are you showing up now? Oprah taught me this. Why are you showing up now? What blessing or message do you bring me today? And I have learned to live in this day. I have learned to use my birthright, which is dominion. I'm a dominionaire. So that means I'm the only one that can speak out of the things here that work for me. You know, angels and spirit, and the Holy Spirit and all these different things, including those things that don't work for me. They don't serve me. They hear my voice, they tremble when they hear me use it, right? So I give literal permission every day. I say, I'm calling on all of you that were created to aid me in finding my highest self in this day. The 21st of January, Tuesday, 2025. Come one, come all. Come here and do whatever you were created to do, no matter what, at any cost. If it will aid me in finding my highest self in this day, and I literally give you permission in 3, 2, 1, now go. I can hear emails being sent, swords being pulled, whatever it takes, you know. And I can also hear simultaneously those things sitting around waiting for me to let them through a gate that they don't belong, they don't have access to. As soon as they hear that command to my team, I gotta go. And I'll think, I don't waste any time moving them out of line. I get permission to my team, and they move themselves out of line. So I can keep it moving. See, Sharon, for decades, I had an album that I considered my journey. Side A was all I ever played. What did I do to deserve this? Over and over and over. And then finally, after 50, when I started, God said, look down that road. That's your future. I look behind you in the rear view. Chances are I have more life behind me than I have in front of me. All of a sudden he said, well, flip it over. I flipped it to side B, and guess what? It started playing. When I found the courage to put the needle on it. What must I do to preserve this? Became a great steward.
Yes.
I started looking at every opportunity that was presented to me from top to bottom, bottom to top. I checked it out from side to side, and I looked it dead in the eye from corner to corner and corner to corner. Because when I do that, I find the question mark inside of everything that is meant for me. I used to be afraid of things that I didn't have all the answers for. And then God said to me, Loren, you're doing it backwards. When you see a question mark inside of any opportunity, it is your proof that I am in there waiting for you. Because if you don't think you need me, you go, I got this. I don't need nobody. And that's an ego trap. It is not of me. It is of anything that doesn't serve you.
That's right.
Finally, I'll leave you with it. Things that do not serve us must go.
Must go, indeed.
Longer we let them run around in our worlds unattended, the more time we give them to trick us into serving them.
Thank you so much to our viewers. See, I wasn't lying. Conversation, education, outreach. Thank you, Dr. Loren Michaels-Harris.
Oh, thank you, Sharon Lee Williams. Thank you so much. God bless you. Keep going, keep growing, keep showing the rest, and let's get there together.
Yes. All right.